The scorching Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the small town of Dustwood, where tumbleweeds rolled lazily across Main Street. Sarah Mitchell stood outside the Silver Dollar Saloon, her weathered hands gripping a stack of missing person flyers. Her daughter Emma had vanished 3 weeks ago while hiking in the Sonoran Desert, and the local sheriff had all but given up the search. "Still wasting your time with those papers," Jake Turner sneered from the saloon's entrance, his beer belly straining against his faded denim shirt. "That girl of yours probably ran off with some city boy. Smart move, if you ask me." Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. "My daughter didn't run away. Something happened to her out there." "Lady, that desert's claimed. Plenty of folks over the years," Deputy Carl Briggs chimed in, leaning against his patrol car. "After 3 weeks in that heat, even the buzzards have moved on." The small crowd that had gathered began to chuckle. Mary Henderson from the general store shook her head dismissively. "Sarah, honey, you need to accept reality. The desert doesn't give back what it takes." "You're all cowards," Sarah shot back, her voice cracking with emotion. "Every single one of you. My Emma is out there, and I'll find her with or without your help." "With what?" Jake laughed. "Harder. You're gonna saddle up that broken-down mare of yours and play Desert Ranger. You can barely keep your ranch running since Tom died." The mention of her late husband stung, but Sarah stood taller. The crowd's laughter grew louder, echoing off the sun-bleached buildings. Even the sheriff, watching from his office window, simply shrugged and turned away. As Sarah headed back to her pickup truck, tears threatening to spill, she noticed something unusual. A lone rider was approaching from the east, emerging from the heat shimmer like a mirage. The laughter died down as everyone turned to watch. The stranger rode a black quarter horse, both rider and mount, moving with practiced ease despite the oppressive heat. He wore dark jeans, worn leather boots, and a simple grey shirt. A weathered Stetson shadowed his face, but there was something about his bearing that commanded attention. He dismounted smoothly in front of the saloon, his spurs creating small dust clouds with each step. The horse, well trained, stood perfectly still without being tied. The stranger's eyes, a striking steel grey, surveyed the scene before, settling on Sarah and her flyers. "Afternoon," he said simply, his voice carrying a quiet authority that silenced the remaining whispers. He walked directly to Sarah, ignoring the others. "Mind if I take a look at one of those?" Sarah handed him a flyer with trembling hands. The stranger studied Emma's photo carefully, then looked back at Sarah. "When did she go missing?" "And 3 weeks ago. She was documenting desert wildlife for her college thesis, never came back from Cathedral Rock Trail." The stranger nodded slowly, folding the flyer and placing it in his shirt pocket. "I know that area. Dangerous. Country if you don't know what you're doing." "And what would you know about it?" Jake interrupted, puffing out his chest. "We don't take kindly to drifters, thinking they know our desert better than us." The stranger's gaze shifted to Jake, and something in those grey eyes made the larger man take an involuntary step back. "I know enough," he said quietly. "I also know that 3 weeks isn't always too late, not if someone knew where to find shelter." Hope flickered in Sarah's eyes for the first time in days. "You think she could still be alive?" "Desert's got secrets," the stranger replied. "Hidden springs, old mine shafts, caves. If your daughter's smart, and from what you've told me, she sounds like she is, she might have found one." The crowd scoffed collectively. Deputy Briggs stepped forward. "Now hold on, mister. We've had search parties out there, dogs, helicopters, the works. If there was anything to find, we'd have found it." "Maybe you were looking in the wrong places," the stranger suggested. His tone wasn't confrontational, just matter of fact. "And I suppose you know the right places," the deputy challenged. The stranger touched the brim of his hat slightly. "I might. Been riding these deserts for 15 years. Learned them from an old Apache tracker who knew every hidden water source from here to the Mexican border. Sarah grabbed his arm, desperation clear in her voice. Please, if you know something, anything that might help. He looked down at her hand on his arm, then back to her face. I'll need supplies, water, rope, first aid kit, emergency flares, and I'll need to leave at first light. The desert's more forgiving in the early hours. I'll get you whatever you need, Sarah promised quickly. The crowd erupted in laughter again. You're really falling for this, Mary Henderson called out. He's probably just another con man looking for a quick buck. The stranger turned to address the crowd for the first time. I don't want money, just supplies and information. Everything she knows about her daughter's plans, where she was headed, what she was carrying. Why? Jake demanded. What's in it for you? The stranger was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. Let's just say I know what it's like to lose someone to the desert. And I know what it's like when everyone gives up too soon. Dawn broke over Dustwood with a spectacular display of oranges and purples, painting the eastern sky. Sarah had barely slept, spending the night gathering supplies and going over every detail of Emma's planned route with the stranger, who had introduced himself simply as Cole. They stood by his horse as he efficiently packed the supplies into saddlebags. Sarah had also saddled her own horse, a sturdy paint mare named Buttercup. I'm coming with you, she announced. Cole paused in his preparations. Desert's no place for... For what? A woman? A mother? Sarah's eyes flashed with determination. That's my daughter out there. I'm coming. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. Can you handle 8 hours in the saddle under full sun? I've been riding this land longer than you might think, Sarah replied, swinging up onto Buttercup with practiced ease. A small crowd had gathered to witness their departure, including Jake and several others who had mocked Sarah the day before. Fool's errand, Jake muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, they'll be back by noon, tails between their legs. Cole ignored them, focusing instead on the map Sarah had marked with Emma's intended route. She was studying the desert bighorn sheep migration patterns, Sarah explained. The cathedral trail leads to several observation points she wanted to document. Smart girl, Cole commented. But that trail splits in 3 directions after Cathedral Rock. Search parties probably took the main path. That's right. How did you know? Because it's what most people would do. But if your daughter was following bighorn sheep, she wouldn't have stayed on the main trail. He pointed to a barely visible line on the map. This old prospector's trail leads to higher ground, better vantage points for wildlife observation. They rode out as the town began to stir, the doubters watching from doorways and windows. The morning air was still cool, but Cole knew it wouldn't last. He set a steady pace, not too fast to tire the horses, but quick enough to cover ground before the heat became unbearable. For the first hour, they rode in companionable silence, the only sounds the steady clip-clop of hooves on packed earth and the occasional cry of a red-tailed hawk. Sarah found herself studying her mysterious companion. He rode like someone, born to the saddle, constantly scanning the horizon, noting every detail of their surroundings. You never said where you're from, Sarah ventured as they paused to water the horses at a known spring. Here and there, Cole replied, checking his horse's hooves for stones. Spent time in Montana, Wyoming, New Mexico, wherever. The work took me. What kind of work? Different things. Ranch hand, wilderness guide, search and rescue for a while. He straightened up, his expression unreadable. We should keep moving. Want to reach Cathedral Rock before the worst heat. They pressed on, the landscape gradually changing from scrub brush to more dramatic rock formations. The sun climbed higher, and the temperature soared. Sarah was grateful for the long-sleeved shirt and wide-brimmed hat Cole had insisted she wear. As they approached Cathedral Rock, an imposing red sandstone formation that looked like a natural cathedral, Cole suddenly held up his hand. "Hold up! What is it?" He dismounted and knelt by the trail, studying something in the dirt. Tracks. About 3 weeks old from the weathering. He looked up at Sarah. "Hiking boots, women's size 7 or 8. 8, Sarah breathed. "Emma wears size 8. Cole followed the tracks for several yards, then stopped where they veered, off the main trail. "She went this way, just like I thought, following something. See these marks? Bighorn sheep tracks. A small herd passed through here. They led the horses up the narrower trail, which wound between massive boulders and steep cliff faces. The path was treacherous in places, requiring them to dismount and lead the horses. Carefully, after another hour of climbing, Cole stopped again. This time, his expression was grim. "Blood," he said quietly, pointing to dark stains on a flat rock. "Old, but definitely blood." Sarah's face paled. "Oh, God." "Don't panic," Cole said firmly. "Not enough for a fatal injury. Looks like she fell, maybe cut herself. On the rocks, but look here." He pointed to more tracks. "She got up, kept walking. Your daughter's tough." They followed the trail of footprints and occasional blood drops for another mile. The path led to a narrow canyon that opened into a hidden valley. Cole's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the area. "This isn't on any map," Sarah said, looking around in wonder. "No, it wouldn't be. Old-timers called these pocket valleys. Natural formations that create their own microclimates. Sometimes you can find water here when everywhere else is dry." He pointed to a cluster of green vegetation against the far canyon wall. "There, that's desert willow and cottonwood. Only grows where there's water." They rode toward the vegetation, and as they drew closer, Cole spotted something that made him pull up short. A piece of fabric was caught on a thorny ocotillo plant. He dismounted and carefully extracted it. "Khaki, from hiking pants." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. Emma was wearing khaki pants. Cole studied the terrain with renewed intensity. She was hurt, probably dehydrated, but she made it this far. Smart girl indeed. She was looking for water. He followed an almost invisible trail through the brush, then stopped. "Sarah, come look at this." There, partially hidden by an overhang of rock, was a small cave entrance, and leading into it were more footprints. Emma's footprints. "She found shelter," Cole said. "Question is she still in there?" Sarah was already off her horse, rushing toward the cave. Cole caught her arm. "Wait, let me go first. We don't know what condition she's in, or if there's anything else in that cave." He pulled a flashlight from his pack and entered. The cave carefully. Sarah waited, heart pounding, until she heard Cole's voice echo from inside. "Sarah, she's here!" Sarah rushed into the cave, her eyes taking a moment to adjust to the darkness. The beam of Cole's flashlight illuminated a heartbreaking scene. Emma lay curled on a makeshift bed of dried grass and her own jacket, unconscious, but breathing. Her lips were cracked, her face sunburned, and a dirty bandage made from torn clothing wrapped around her left leg. "Emma, baby, it's Mom!" Sarah dropped to her knees beside her daughter, gently cradling her head. Cole was already checking Emma's vitals. "Pulse is weak but steady, severe dehydration, possible infection in that leg wound." He pulled out the first aid supplies. "We need to get fluids in her immediately." Working with practiced efficiency, Cole set up an IV line while Sarah held Emma's hand, tears streaming down her face. "How did you know?" she asked. "How did you know she'd be here?" "Experience," Cole replied, focusing on his task. "And something else. Your daughter left signs." "Signs." He pointed to the cave wall where Emma had used charcoal to write messages. Day 3, found water. Day 7, leg infected. Day 12, running low on purification tablets. Day 18, heard helicopter, couldn't signal. Sarah's heart broke reading her daughter's desperate documentation. She never gave up. No, she didn't, and neither did you. Cole finished setting up the IV and began cleaning Emma's leg wound. This is infected, but not as bad as it could be. She did a good job keeping it clean with what she had. As he worked, Emma's eyes fluttered open. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Sarah smoothed her daughter's hair back. "You're safe now." Emma's eyes moved to Cole, confusion evident. "Who?" "A friend," Sarah said. "He found you when everyone else said it was hopeless." Cole finished bandaging the wound and sat back. "We need to move her, but not until she's had at least 2 bags of fluids. The nearest road accessible by vehicle is about 5 miles east. I can ride back, bring help." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We don't split up. We'll make a travois, carry her out together." Cole nodded approvingly. "Smart. I'll need some strong branches and the rope." As he stood to leave the cave, Emma grabbed his sleeve weakly. "Wait, I know you." Cole froze. Sarah looked between them, confused. "Emma, you've never met him before?" Emma struggled to focus, her words coming slowly. "The news 5 years ago, Colorado, the ranger who—" Her eyes widened with recognition. "You're Cole Matthews. You saved those kids from the avalanche, but then your partner." Cole's face had gone very still. Sarah remembered the story now, a heroic rescue that had made national news, followed by tragedy when Cole's partner and best friend had died trying to save one more person. "That was a long time ago," Cole said quietly. "They said you disappeared," Emma continued, "that you blamed yourself, left the service." "Emma, rest now," Sarah intervened gently, seeing the pain in Cole's eyes. But Emma persisted, her voice gaining a bit of strength. "My professor, he used your rescue techniques in our wilderness survival class. Said you were the best tracker he'd ever known. Said you could find anyone, anywhere." Cole turned. "Away, I'll get started on that travois." After he left, Sarah looked at her daughter. "Is it really him?" Emma nodded weakly. "Mom, he's a legend in search and rescue circles. After his partner died, he just vanished. Some say he still helps people, showing up where he's needed, then disappearing again." Sarah felt a chill despite the desert heat. The mysterious stranger who had arrived just when she needed him most, who had found her daughter when everyone else had given up. He was a man running from his own ghosts. Outside the cave, Cole worked methodically, cutting branches and lashing them together with practiced knots. Sarah emerged to help him, and they worked in silence for a while. "Is it true?" she finally asked. "What Emma said?" Cole's hands never paused in their work. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me. You saved my daughter." He looked up then, and Sarah saw the weight of old pain in his eyes. "I didn't save Marcus, my partner. He went back for a teenager who'd gotten separated from the group. Avalanche risk was too high. I tried to stop him, but—" He shook his head. "He saved the kid, didn't make it out himself. That wasn't your fault. I was lead tracker. It was my job to assess the risk, to keep everyone safe, including him." Cole tested the travois's strength. "After that, I couldn't, staying in one place, being responsible for a team again. I couldn't do it." "So you wander," Sarah said softly, "helping where you can, then moving on before anyone gets too close." Cole didn't answer, but his silence was confirmation enough. They finished the travois and carefully moved Emma onto it. She had fallen back into a fitful sleep, but her breathing was stronger after the fluids. The journey back was arduous. They took turns pulling the travois while the other led the horses. The sun was brutal, but Cole had planned their route to take advantage of every bit of shade. He stopped frequently to check on Emma, adjusting the IV bag and monitoring her condition. Why did you really stop in Dustwood? Sarah asked during one of their rest breaks. Cole was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he said, I heard talk in Tucson about a missing girl, local authorities giving up, mother not backing down. It felt familiar, like someone else who wouldn't give up. Marcus had a sister, Cole said quietly. After he died, she never blamed me, said I gave her brother purpose, that he died doing what he loved. But I saw it in her eyes, the wish that someone had tried harder to stop him, to save him. Sarah touched his arm gently. You can't save everyone, Cole, but you saved Emma. That matters. As they crested the final ridge, the town of Dustwood came into view. Cole pulled out the emergency flares and fired one into the sky. Within minutes, they could see vehicles racing toward them. The entire town seemed to converge on Main Street as the rescue vehicles arrived. Dr. Patricia Hawkins immediately took charge of Emma, transferring her to a proper gurney while maintaining the IV Cole had started. The crowd that had gathered parted in stunned silence as they saw Emma alive on the stretcher. Jake Turner stood slack-jawed, his beer forgotten in his hand. Mary Henderson clutched her chest, tears forming in her eyes. Even Deputy Briggs looked ashamed as he watched Sarah climb into the ambulance with her daughter. Wait, Sarah called out, looking for Cole. But he had stepped back into the shadows, already preparing to leave. Cole! He paused, one hand on his horse's reins. Sarah ran to him, the crowd watching. You're not leaving, not yet. Please. Your daughter's safe. That's what matters, Cole said quietly. No. Sarah's voice was firm. You don't get to just disappear. Not this time. Dr. Hawkins called out from the ambulance. Sarah, we need to go, but she's stable. Whoever administered that field of feast saved her life. She's going to be fine. Sarah looked back at Cole. You heard her. You saved my daughter's life. The least you can do is let me thank you properly. Let us thank you. The crowd began to murmur, the story spreading quickly. The mysterious stranger was Cole Matthews, the legendary tracker. He'd found Emma Mitchell when everyone else had given up. Jake Turner was the first to step forward, his face red with embarrassment. I owe you an apology, mister. I owe both of you an apology. He looked at Sarah. I was wrong. Dead wrong. One by one, others came forward. Mary Henderson approached with tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Sarah. We should have helped you. We should have believed. Sheriff Tom Rodriguez, who had emerged from his office, walked up to Cole. Matthews. The Cole Matthews. I'll be damned. I heard about you from a buddy in Colorado, search and rescue. Said you were the best they ever had. Cole looked uncomfortable with the attention. That was a long time ago, Sheriff. Maybe. But what you did today, that wasn't a long time ago. That was a miracle. The ambulance left for the county hospital with Sarah and Emma, but not before Sarah made Cole promise he'd still be there when she returned. The crowd gradually dispersed, but the atmosphere in the town had changed. There was a subdued quality to it, a collective shame mixed with wonder. Cole found himself at the Silver Dollar Saloon, where Jake Turner insisted on buying him. A drink. I've been a fool, Jake said, sliding a whiskey across the bar. Sarah's been nothing but strong since Tom died, keeping that ranch going, raising Emma alone. And when she needed us most, we laughed at her. Fear makes people do stupid things, Cole said, leaving the drink untouched. Fear of the desert, fear of hope, fear of being wrong. Is that why you left search and rescue? Jake asked. Fear. Cole finally took a sip of the whiskey. Something like that. Word spread quickly through the county. By evening, reporters had started arriving, wanting to interview the mysterious hero who'd found Emma Mitchell. Cole avoided them all, spending his time caring for his horse and resupplying for his departure. But as night fell, Sarah returned from the hospital. She found Cole in the stable behind the old hotel, saddling his horse. "Running away again?" she asked. "Job's done," Cole replied without turning around. "Is it? Because from where?" "I'm standing. You still look like a man running from something." Cole's hands stilled on the saddle straps. "Your daughter's going to be fine. Full recovery expected. That's all that matters." "She wants to see you. To thank you properly." "No need." Sarah stepped closer. "Cole, she told me what you taught her just by being there. That survival isn't just about water and shelter. It's about not giving up. It's about believing someone will come looking, even when logic says they won't." "I just followed tracks," Cole said quietly. "No, you followed hope. My hope. You believed when no one else would." Sarah touched his shoulder. "Maybe it's time you stopped punishing yourself for not being able to save everyone. Maybe it's time you let someone save you." Cole finally turned to face her. In the dim light of the stable, she could see the battle playing out in his eyes. "I don't stay in one place," he warned. "I'm not asking you to, but Emma will be in the hospital for at least a week. Would it kill you to stick around that long? Let the town thank you. Let yourself be part of something good instead of always carrying the bad." The next morning, Cole was still there. He visited Emma in the hospital, where she tearfully thanked him and made him promise to teach her proper survival techniques once she recovered. The town embraced him as a hero, though he remained uncomfortable with the attention. Jake Turner organized a fundraiser to help with Sarah's medical bills. Mary Henderson cooked meals for Sarah to take to the hospital. The entire town seemed to wake up from a spell, remembering what community meant. Sheriff Rodriguez offered Cole a job with the county search and rescue team. "We could use someone with your skills," he said. "Lot of desert out here. Lot of people who get lost." Cole didn't accept immediately, but he didn't refuse either. He spent his days helping Sarah with her ranch, fixing fences and training horses. In the evenings, he'd visit Emma, bringing her books about desert survival and listening to her plans for completing her thesis. "You know what the bighorn sheep taught me," Emma said one evening, her strength returning daily. "They survive in the harshest conditions by knowing every hidden water source, every safe path. But they also stay together. The herd protects its own." Cole understood what she was really saying. For 5 years, he'd been a solitary creature, surviving but not living. Maybe it was time to rejoin the herd. A week turned into 2, and then a month. Cole found himself putting down tentative routes. He accepted the sheriff's offer on a trial basis, training deputies in tracking and desert survival. He helped Sarah expand her ranch's horse training program, and slowly, the weight he'd carried for 5 years began to lighten. The day Emma was released from the hospital, the whole town turned out to welcome her home. She walked with a slight limp that would fade with time, but her spirit was undaunted. During the celebration, she stood up to speak. "They say the desert doesn't give back what it takes," Emma began, her voice strong. "But that's not true. The desert taught me that survival is about more than just staying alive. It's about maintaining hope. It's about believing that someone will come looking, even when everyone says it's too late." She looked directly at Cole. "And sometimes the desert gives you exactly what you need. It gave me shelter when I needed it. It gave my mom strength when others showed doubt. And it brought us someone who remembered that every life is worth saving, that it's never too late to try." The crowd erupted in applause. Cole, standing at the back, felt something shift inside him. For the first time in 5 years, the ghost of Marcus felt like a gentle presence rather than a weight. He could almost hear his partner's voice. "About time you stopped wandering. Brother." Sarah found him after the celebration, as he stood looking out at the desert sunset. "So, you staying?" she asked. "For now," Cole replied. "Seems like this town could use someone who knows how to find what's lost." "Including yourself," Cole smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "It may be especially that." As the sun set over Dustwood, painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson, Cole Matthews realized he'd spent 5 years looking for redemption in all the wrong places. It wasn't found in solitude or self-punishment. It was found in a mother's unwavering faith, a daughter's courage, and a community's capacity to change. The desert had taken much from him, but Sarah was right. Sometimes it gave back, and what it had given him was a second chance at belonging, at purpose, at home. The lone rider had finally found a reason to stop riding.